reforms on school education in the 21st century under the National Education Policy 2020 today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi remembers the 9/11 attack, says if only humankind had walked on the path of Acharya Vinoba Bhave and Swami Vivekananda, the destruction that followed would not have occurred. India and China reached consensus in the bilateral meeting between External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Moscow on the sidelines of SCO. Both agreed to quickly disengage and expedite work towards new confidence-building measures. India-US urged Pakistan to take immediate irreversible action against terror groups in the third India Counter-Terrorism Joint Working Group and Designations Dialogue. US reiterates its support to India in the fight against terrorism. India slams Pakistan's propaganda at the UN Forum on the Culture of Peace for spreading anti-India rhetoric and calls the attempt as unfortunate. Union Minister for Information and Technology Ravi Shankar Prasad to release the second edition of Ranking of States Startup Ecosystem in the presence of Union Minister Piyush Goyal via video conference today. European Union condemns the UK government's unilateral decision to override the divorce deal as an extremely serious violation of the deal and international law, also threatens straight sanctions against the country. And at the US Open, Naomi Osaka books her berth in the final of the women's singles with a hard three-set win over Jennifer Brady. Serena Williams loses to Victoria Azarenka in the other semi-final, which was billed as the Battle of Supermoms. Good morning. Welcome to English News. I am Anil Thomas. Now for the stories in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will today address a conclave on school education in 21st century under the National Education Policy 2020 through video conference. The two-day conclave is being organized by the Ministry of Education as part of the Shikshak Parv. Earlier, the Prime Minister had also delivered the inaugural address at the conclave on transformational reforms in higher education under NEP 2020 on August 7th and had addressed the Governors' Conference on Education Policy on September 7th.
The National Education Policy 2020 aims at making India an equitable and vibrant knowledge society. It envisions an India-centered education system that contributes directly to transforming India into a global superpower. A two-day online conclave on school education in 21st century has been started on Thursday by Ministry of Education. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the conclave on Friday. Discussion on important themes of national education policy for school education and important aspects related to schooling are taking place by experts during this conclave. This conclave is being organized as a part of Shikshak Parv, which is being celebrated from 8th to 25th of September.
हमारे हर स्कूल में लगभग 1,60,000 स्कूलों में व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बने हुए हैं। गांवों में रहने वाले बच्चे जहां थोड़ा नेट प्रॉब्लम, डेटा प्रॉब्लम अभी है, तो इसके बावजूद भी 42 लाख के आसपास बच्चे हमारे उन व्हाट्सएप ग्रुपों से जुड़े हैं, जिनके लिए प्रतिदिन हम विषयवार और टॉपिक वार जो उनकी कक्षाओं का विषय है, वीडियोस के लिंक, इवन हमारे उसमें 3 स्तर पे काम होता है सर। एक तो हमारे जो टीचर है इनिशियल लेवल पे वो क्या करते हैं, जो उनका कंटेंट है हम शिक्षक उसको खुद बनाते हैं, उनकी पाठ्य पुस्तकों, उनके सिलेबस के अकॉर्डिंग, और उसमें वीडियो डालते हैं, उसमें पीडीएफ डालते हैं और उसमें प्रोजेक्ट्स डालते हैं।
Talking about school education, the entire policy structure has been changed to 5+3+3+4 instead of 10+2. Apart from this, a target has been set to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio from preschool to class 12th by 2030. In addition to this, the education policy focuses on integration of curriculum according to the skills needed in 21st century, while developing scientific thinking in students, setting professional standards for teachers, changing assessment policy and promoting vocational education from 6th standard onwards. With inputs from Nishant Saurabh's report, TD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi remembered the 9/11 attack and paid tributes to those who lost their lives in the deadly attack. Prime Minister Modi in a tweet said, and I quote, "The world remembers 9/11 for the dastardly attack on this day in USA. If only humankind had walked on the path of Jai Jagat given by Acharya Vinoba Bhave and Swami Vivekananda's message of universal brotherhood given in 1893, the destruction that followed would not have occurred." In other international stories, New York today marks the 19th anniversary of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack which destroyed the city's famous Twin Towers. The city will hold its annual ceremony in memory of the nearly 3,000 people who died in the terrorist attack. Preparations were underway at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum to commemorate the 19th anniversary. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the museum will play a pre-recorded reading of families of victims and stream it on their website instead of a large ceremony. Memorial will be open to public in the afternoon, which families of victims will be allowed to visit in the morning. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on Thursday in Moscow. The meeting was held on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, that's the SCO meeting. Both ministers had constructive discussion on the developments in the India-China border areas as well as the India-China relations. The two ministers agreed that both sides should take guidance from the series of consensus of the leaders on the developing India-China relations, including not allowing differences to become disputes. The two foreign ministers also agreed that the border troops of both sides should continue their dialogue quickly, disengage and maintain proper distance and ease tensions. They also agreed that both sides shall abide by all the existing agreements and protocol on the China-India boundary affairs, maintain peace and tranquility in the border areas and avoid any action that could escalate matters. Both the leaders also agreed that as the situation eases, the two sides should expedite work on to conclude the new confidence-building measures to maintain and to enhance peace and tranquility in the border areas. India and United States have denounced the use of terrorist proxies and strongly condemned cross-border terrorism in all its forms. Attending the third US-India Counterterrorism Joint Working Group and Designations Dialogue virtually, the two sides exchanged views on threats posed by UN-sanctioned terrorist entities. They also emphasized the need for concentrated action against all terrorist groups and networks that included Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizbul Mujahideen. The two sides also shared information about their priorities and procedures for pursuing sanctions and designations against terrorist groups and individuals, particularly in light of the recent legislative changes in India. The two sides underlined the urgent need for Pakistan to take immediate, sustained and irreversible action to ensure that no territory under its control is used for terrorist attack and to expeditiously bring to justice the perpetrators of such attacks that include the 26/11 Mumbai and Pathankot attacks. The US on its part reiterated support for the people and the government of India in their fight against terrorism. Meanwhile, India has slammed Pakistan for using UN platforms for spreading anti-India rhetoric. During the high-level forum on the culture of peace on Thursday, India called the Pakistani attempt unfortunate. In a statement, India said that we have witnessed another attempt by the delegation of Pakistan to exploit a UN platform for hate speech against India. India further added that Pakistan's deplorable human rights record and discriminatory treatment of religious and ethnic minorities is a cause of persistent concern for the international community. Talk of culture of peace from the delegation of Pakistan is nothing but a decoy to divert attention from their own shameful records. Further, tearing apart the duplicity of the Pakistani side, India said that before making absurd allegations against India, where equal rights of people of all faiths are guaranteed by the Constitution, the delegation of Pakistan must do itself a favor of looking at their own system and records of protecting minorities. Referring to the ongoing pandemic worldwide, India expressed readiness to support all efforts to build bridges of understanding across the world to emerge stronger from this crisis and to shape the foundation for a better world. The statement also underlined the importance of collaboration in dealing with the misinformation campaign. Back home, the Union Information and Technology Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad will today release the results of the second edition of ranking of states on support to startup ecosystems through a virtual ceremony. Railway Minister Piyush Goyal, Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri and Minister of State for Commerce and Industry Som Prakash will also grace the occasion. The Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade conducted the second edition of the state's startup ranking exercise with the key objective to foster competitiveness and to propel states and union territories to work proactively towards uplifting the startup ecosystem. The rankings are based on the initiatives taken to develop the startup ecosystem for promoting budding entrepreneurs. The State Startup Ranking Framework 2019 has 7 broad reform areas consisting of 30 action points. A total of 22 states and 3 union territories participated in the exercise. An evaluation committee comprising of independent experts from the startup ecosystem carried out a detailed assessment of the responses from various parameters. To establish uniformity and to ensure standardization in the ranking process, states and union territories have been divided into 2 groups. While union territories except Delhi and all states in northeast India except Assam are in one group, all other states are placed in the other group. In the last 2018 edition of the ranking, Gujarat emerged as the best performing state in developing the startup ecosystem for budding entrepreneurs. Other top performers that followed the western state were Karnataka, Kerala, Odisha and Rajasthan. Well, Meghalaya on Thursday launched the Piggery mission of over 220 crore rupees. Funded by the National Cooperative Development Corporation, the project is a step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. Announcing the launch of the mission, Meghalaya Chief Minister Conrad Sangma said that the new mission will boost pork production in the state. It will also boost economic growth, promote entrepreneurship, social sector development, infrastructure and rural development. The state received the first funding installment of 52.36 crore from the NCDC to kickstart the project, which is banking on subversion of interest or interest-free loans to farmers for 8 years to make the project a success. The state is also looking to converge with government programs like Manrega to help farmers set up piggery sheds in villages. Starting with the milk mission in 2018, the state has since launched the Lakadong turmeric mission, the jackfruit mission, the aquaculture mission, the mushroom mission and now the piggery mission. Well, on to some business stories. The government has constituted a 3-member expert committee to assist in the assessment of relief to bank borrowers. The committee, chaired by former CAG Rajiv Maharishi, will measure the impact of the national economy and financial stability of waiving of interest and COVID-19 related moratorium. It will also give suggestions to mitigate financial constraints of various sections of society in this respect and measures to be adopted in this regard. The panel will submit its report within 1 week. The move came as various concerns have been raised during the ongoing hearing in the Supreme Court in the matter regarding relief sought in terms of waiver of interest and waiver of interest on interest and other related issues. And now an update on COVID-19 from across the country. The recovery rate has now reached 77.65%. The Health Ministry has said that the total number of recoveries has reached 35,42,663. The constant increase in the number of recoveries has ensured that the actual caseload of the country is reduced and currently comprises only 20.68% of the total positive cases. Effective implementation of test, track and treat approach has led to higher recoveries and lower fatality. Currently, India's case fatality rate is at 1.67%. Early identification through aggressive and wide-scale testing, prompt and effective treatment in supervised home facility and isolation and hospitals, and enhanced clinical skills of ICU doctors have actively led to a high recovery rate in India. According to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, there has been an unprecedented surge in COVID recoveries in India. There is more than 100% increase in patients recovered and discharged in the past 29 days. Let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world. Over 2 crore 83 lakh coronavirus cases being reported worldwide, with over 9 lakh 13,000 deaths being reported. As many as 2 crore 3 lakh people have recovered from coronavirus so far across the world. United States continues to be the top of the list amongst the worst hit by the pandemic countries so far, with the highest number of infection and fatalities. USA has over 65 lakh 88,000 cases of coronavirus, with the death toll now over 1 lakh 96,000. In terms of death toll, United States is followed by Brazil, which has recorded 1 lakh 29,000 deaths so far. Brazil currently has 42 lakh 39,000 cases of infection. WHO, that's the World Health Organization, has stressed that the AstraZeneca's pause of an experimental vaccine for the coronavirus after the illness of a participant is a wake-up call, but should not be discouraging researchers. Governments are desperate for a vaccine to help end the COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused more than 9 lakh deaths and a global economic turmoil. The WHO had earlier flagged AstraZeneca being developed with Oxford University as the most promising vaccine. However, the drug maker suspended the last stage trials of its potential vaccine this week after a participant in Britain was reported to be suffering from symptoms associated with a rare spinal inflammatory disorder. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for a $35 billion more, including $15 billion in the next 3 months for the World Health Organization's ACT Accelerator program to back vaccines, treatment and diagnostics against COVID-19. The UN chief said that a mere $3 billion has only been contributed so far, which is less than 10% of what is required. Financial support has so far lagged goals as nations or governments, including the European Union, Britain, Japan and the United States, reach bilateral deals for vaccines. European Commission has already promised $474 million to the COVAX vaccine portion of the program. The US Senate on Thursday killed a $300 billion US dollar coronavirus aid bill written by Senate Republican leadership as Democrats blocked the measure on a procedural vote. The Senate voted 52-47 to advance the bill, short of the 60 vote needed to continue debate on the measure. The vote comes as the number of infections due to coronavirus increased to over 65 lakh 86,000 cases and the death toll now rising over 1 lakh 96,000 in the United States. Earlier this year, Congress quickly passed 4 major bills providing about $3 trillion to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. The democratically controlled House of Representatives passed a bill in May that would provide another $3 trillion in aid, but gridlock has since prevailed. In Spain, authorities have shut a primary school in the Basque Country region after several teachers tested positive for COVID-19. It is the first school to close entirely in the week classrooms reopened across the country. Students have begun to return to school after a 6-month shutdown, prompting feeling of relief but also concerns about further infections spreading in the country that already has the most cases in Western Europe. Spain Health Emergency Chief said the effect of schools reopening on the spread of coronavirus would only be evident next week at the earliest. So far, Spain has reported over 5,54,000 infections and over 29,699 deaths. In other news, the U.S. President Donald Trump said that the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will head to Doha to participate in the intra-Afghan peace talks. Trump said that the number of U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan will be reduced to 4,000 in a very short period of time. The United States and other international players have been trying to usher peace talks and to bring an end to the 19 years of war. However, there has been deadlocks and delays since Washington signed its troop withdrawal pact with the insurgent groups in February. At least 9 people were killed in Colombia following violent overnight protest against police brutality. Outrage was spread after a man died in police custody. Police officers arrested the person for breaking social distancing rules. Dozens of station and public vehicles were damaged, while more than 175 protesters and 147 police officers were injured in the protest that followed. There were also protests in the city of Soacha, where more than 70 vehicles were damaged, among them 9 public buses which were set alight. Moving to California, where at least 7 people were killed as wildfires destroyed thousands of homes. Over 64,000 people were evacuated while firefighters battled 28 major fires across portions of the state. Several other people were critically burnt and about 2,000 structures, including homes and other buildings, that were damaged. Wildfire has exploded in the last 48 hours after burning for about 3 weeks. In Oregon, dozens of extreme wildfires burned forests and towns and destroyed hundreds of homes. Over 3,000 firefighters battled nearly 3 dozen wildfires and evacuated more than 40,000 people. Oregon governor said that the state was facing its greatest ever loss in lives from wildfires. In eastern Washington state, wildfires destroyed most of the farming town of Malden. Prospects of a trade deal between Britain and the European Union appeared to dim, with the EU saying that even the smallest UK breach of the Brexit withdrawal treaty would undermine what little trust is left between the two sides. The warning came as Britain pushed ahead with legislation that it admits breaks international law by overriding parts of the legally binding withdrawal agreement that both Britain and the EU signed up to. Britain left the political structure of the European Union on January 31st and will make an economic break from when the 11-month transition period ends on 31st of December. The two sides are trying to strike a new trade deal by then, but talks have bogged down. The withdrawal agreement includes measures to ensure that there are no barriers to trade or travel between Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, and EU member Ireland. Well, on to sports. Women's singles at the US Open and semi-finals action took place today. Serena Williams' dream of winning a 24th Grand Slam shattered as she was beaten 1-6, 6-3, 6-3 in the semi-finals by supermom Victoria Azarenka, who denied her the chance of winning a record-equaling 24th Grand Slam singles titles on home soil this year. Belarusian Azarenka will now play Japan's Naomi Osaka in her third final at Flushing Meadows on Saturday, having lost the 2 previous ones to Williams in 2012 and 13. The semi-final win was Azarenka's first ever win against Serena Williams at the US Open. Naomi Osaka to reach the final with a 3-set win. Earlier, the world number 4 seeded Naomi Osaka beat Jennifer Brady 7-6, 3-6, 6-1 to reach her second US Open final. Osaka took the first set 7-6, chasing her down. Brady came back to win the second set 6-3, but Osaka did not miss any chance to reach her second US Open final and broke Brady in the third set to take a 3-1 lead before wrapping up the match in 3 sets. Sports Authority of India, that's SAI, has sanctioned a camp for shuttlers participating in the Thomas and Uber Cup. The camp will be held at the Gopichand Academy in Hyderabad. After the meeting with the Chief National Badminton Coach and the Badminton Association of India, detailed SOP for the campers along with quarantine norms were discussed. Due to the paucity of time, it was decided that the players would report to the camp with a COVID negative test report and be in quarantine to be tested for COVID again on the 6th day. Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of news. Thanks for watching. Do take good care of yourself.